Welcome to the digital follow-up to the Sweden-Canada Innovation Days that was organized by Vinnova in Toronto on the 21st to 23rd of September. I'm Paul Nemes. I represent Paper Province, a bioeconomy cluster and innovation platform based in Karlstad, Sweden. So we took part in the Innovation Days together with the Vinvext Initiative Automation Region, the Strategic Innovation Platform Process Industrial IT and Automation, or PIA, as well as the incubator Sting Bioeconomy. And together with our Canadian partners, whom you'll hear a lot more about during this hour, we organized two side events, one focusing on InTech and the other one on the bioeconomy. And our participation in the Innovation Days was made possible by Vinnova and through our collaboration in iHubs Sweden. So iHubs Sweden is a national platform sprung from the regional Vinvext initiatives. And together, the Vinvext initiatives and other stakeholders in the innovation system, we aim to increase Sweden's innovation capacity by connecting regional capabilities. iHubs Sweden's catchphrase is zero waste in the innovation system. And by that, we mean by connecting initiatives across Sweden, we can become much more efficient in how we support innovation in our existing and future companies and make our joint capacity available in even more relevant contexts. And one of iHubs Sweden's specific aims is to generate international collaboration on innovation in order to have an impact on the ability of Sweden's companies to undertake internationalization activities. And this is specifically what we aim to do during the Sweden-Canada Innovation Days. And we will now, through a number of videos, live presentations, attempt to summarize and give you an insight into the Innovation Days and the value created during the event. So now look, let's take a look at a few videos which we think will summarize both the main event, the Sweden Innovation Days, and the bioeconomy and InTech side events. So we'll begin with a video showing the workshops that we ran as part of the side events.
Hej Peter, du är i Kanada nu. Kan du berätta vad du gör här?
Precis, nu är vi i Toronto, Kanada. Automation Region är här för att vara delta på Sweden Canada Innovation Day med syfte på att möjliggöra spännande samverkansprojekt mellan länderna, mellan företag och akademi. Så att nu är det dags för workshop och många spännande möten.
So what are your impressions from this Sweden Canada Innovation Day so far?
Well, I was really excited to see that, first of all, the culture and the big questions that we're all thinking about are exactly the same between the two countries. Questions on commercialization, the type of technology that we're using. These are global challenges, and I think we really have an opportunity to work together.
And I can only agree with what you're saying. It's fantastic to meet all of these people that have the same challenges, although we come from different cultures, different countries, but many things are the same. And it's amazing to be here in Toronto as well, of course, because challenging, nice people to meet as well.
Hi, Mike Barton at CRIBE, the Center for Research and Innovation in the Bioeconomy. Happy to be here in Toronto with our partners Paper Province, looking at regional collaboration between our two jurisdictions, so Canada, Sweden, and our interest specifically commercializing the bioeconomy in Ontario. So looking for some opportunities and overcoming some of the shared common challenges that we face in our two jurisdictions.
So yeah, there's a few insights, and I should say all in all we had about 50 participants in the two workshops. We had Swedish and Canadian companies, we had public organizations and research institutes. And speaking only for the bioeconomy workshop that we organized at Paper Province together with CRIBE, the Center for Research and Innovation in the Bioeconomy, based in Thunder Bay. I can definitely say that together we managed to identify specific areas of collaboration, which we are now likely to take forward as collaborative activities and in projects. So next up is a slideshow, a few slides showcasing the site visit to the Vector Institute that the INTEC group took part in as part of this side event. So here's the slideshow. So while the iHub's partners, so to speak, focus on the InTech and the bioeconomy side events, we should definitely not forget that there was a 2-day main event organized by Vinnova and Business Sweden. So Paper Province, Automation Region, PIA, Sting Bioeconomy, CRIBE, and our companies, we naturally took part in the Innovation Days main event. And the main event itself saw keynote speeches, roundtables, and panel discussions on mining and advanced manufacturing, which were the main themes selected for the Innovation Days. And there was a bit of bioeconomy in there as well. Victor Fedeli, Ontario's Minister for Economic Development and Trade, he spoke very highly of the presence of Swedish companies in Ontario, as well as the fantastic opportunities for collaboration between Sweden and Ontario. And we are really glad to some extent have delivered on that front. So now we'll be given a peek into the Sweden-Canada Days main event. So yeah, what you saw there as well, one was a video from a matchmaking session that was organized by Sting Bioeconomy that was held during the Bioeconomy side event. So 5 Swedish startups, 4 Canadian companies, and 1 Canadian research institute, FP Innovations, took part in that session. And all in all, 30 matchmaking meetings took place during the session. And on average, each company identified at least 2 other companies with whom they saw enough potential or opportunity to take the discussion to the next stage beyond the matchmaking session. And I should mention as well that the main event that I mentioned earlier, that also included a matchmaking event organized by Ignite Sweden. Unfortunately, we don't have any pictures from that event. But let me just say that Ignite Sweden was established in 2017 with the mission to foster innovation and by connecting startups and scale-ups with public and private organizations. So Ignite's matchmaking session, which was based on a specific Ignite Sweden method, that saw a total of 31 matchmaking meetings between 11 companies, Swedish startup companies, and 5 Canadian corporates. And those meetings as well have already resulted in a number of follow-up processes with commercial collaboration in sight. But let's now shift focus a little bit back to the 2 workshops that were organized as part of the bioeconomy and InTech side events. The iHub's side events, really. To give you an idea of what was discussed during the InTech workshop in particular, we want to show you 2 virtual presentations that were given during that workshop. And first up is Michael Page of the Vector Institute.
Hello, and thank you for having me be part of this virtual conference. It's so exciting to speak on behalf of the Vector Institute here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Listen, I've been given just a few questions in just a few moments to address your delegation, so I'm going to jump right into it. The first question is, who am I? So my name is Michael Page. I'm a Director of Industry Innovation at the Vector Institute. We are a research institution focused on artificial intelligence. And specifically, my work over the last number of years is focused on commercialization strategies, as well as helping to accelerate the adoption of AI across many different industries. Prior to this role, I was actually at the University of Toronto, where I was leading teams and executing academic partnerships. And I've kind of been doing this work for more than about 15 years or so, and have experience in corporate strategy, innovation, social impact, and R&D type activities for different organizations. Not so long ago, I actually did an executive MBA at Ivy Business School, and kind of a long time ago, I got a BA from the University of Toronto. And personally, one thing I always love to mention is, in my free time, what I'm really passionate about and what I get a lot of joy doing is mentoring students in innovation, social impact, starting businesses, etc. So the next question is, what does the Vector Institute do? So the Vector Institute is a not-for-profit research institution. We're focused, as I mentioned, on advanced research in areas of deep learning and machine learning. So these are sub-disciplines within AI. And we were founded in 2017 following the establishment of something called the Pan-Canadian AI Strategy, which was a federal strategic initiative led by the Canadian government to really nationally bolster our efforts in AI. So why this is significant, if you haven't heard of the Pan-Canadian AI Strategy before, is Canada was actually the first country in the world to set a national strategy around AI. So what do we do as an institute? Well, in terms of research, we are home to over 700 faculty from coast to coast. We provide a really amazing environment for cross-institution collaboration, along with the computing facilities that are necessary to do that. So, you know, these researchers, they have a lot of data, they want to access a lot of data. We really provide the right environment for them to do that, both physically and in a virtual environment. For students, we're a place where graduate students, both domestically and from around the world, come to study. So Vector, for many cases, can become sort of like a second home for these individuals. We have physical labs in our space. Coupled with that, when a lot of students are considering, studying AI, they stumble upon Vector to get more information about where they would like to study in the world, and ultimately who they would like to study with. And for the last part, who is Vector? Well, we do a lot actually with industry, and that's the team that I'm part of. So we are really a place where businesses can develop a competitive advantage. They can learn how to adopt AI and really implement these new developments to transform their businesses. What we spend a lot of time focusing on in a wide variety of programming is we help facilitate the accelerated adoption of new foundational AI techniques. So as you can imagine, with this research network of more than 700 researchers from coast to coast, there's a lot of new discovery on an annual basis. And so what we do is we take all of that new foundational research and we package it in ways that become more actionable and accessible for industry. So the next question is, why is AI an important part of the green transition? So this is something that I'm just incredibly personally passionate about. I ultimately believe that AI will play a really, really big role And as Canadians, you know, as we're looking towards all the different milestones and goals that we want to achieve between now and 2030, we're really going to need to use every tool in our toolbox. So what I want to say is AI is going to be one of many different new technologies and tools that we embrace and we look towards. That said, you know, it's not going to be a silver bullet. It's not going to be the one thing that solves everything. I do think that it will be used in many different cases, but it's not going to be the silver bullet, unfortunately. So how I see this going, I think that there's some, you know, really simple examples. This could be just as straightforward as smart thermostats and HVAC systems. So we think of our homes and our businesses. If we had learning systems implemented onto all those devices, we could actually be using energy more intelligently and allow that usage to adapt based on our individual climates. I also see AI being used in terms of like predictive maintenance, right? So if we're going to need to plan for downtime and repair time, particularly with all the demands that are going to be placed on our electrical grids and our distributed grids. Really, I think predictive maintenance is going to play a key role there as well. In terms of how much energy do we actually need, that's forecasting, right? It's a classical sort of AI problem or data science problem. And I really see AI kind of looking at all the different parameters, all the different needs, all the different constraints, and coming up with you know, future demand planning scenarios. So I just say we're just really at the beginning of our climate transition, really, when we think of the planet. And there's still a lot of value and a lot that's going to be discovered and realized with the adoption and the use of AI. So the next question is, what are some of my best tips for companies that are new to AI and want to start implementing AI in the work? Well, I have a few ideas. The first one is to ultimately come to sessions just like this one. If you are just at the beginning of your journey, there are so many ways to learn and discover more about this burgeoning field, get used to the terminology and ultimately how you'll start to understand how the different you know, technologies and applications and use cases could transform your business and create future value. After that, or like my second recommendation is to start thinking about the data that you have and ultimately the data that you will need to start answering some of these business problems, right? If you don't know what data you have, you know, find the right people internally to start having those conversations about how do we make this data accessible? How do we make this in a, you know, structured in a more meaningful way that we can start building an AI sandbox or collaborate across teams. Lastly, I want you to think about your teams. We often say here regularly that AI is a team sport. So think about your colleagues, not just in your area, but across the organization at the executive level and at a more tactical and operational level. Do you have the right people? Who has the skill set? Who are going to be your super users? Who's going to be your executive sponsor? And start identifying gaps and identifying where people are. It is going to take a massive team. It's going to take a team that is really committed to these big ideas of transforming your business, all working together across silos to implement AI and transform your business. So that's all my time. Thank you so much. Keep well.
Okay, so that's a bit about AI as well as the green transition. I suppose the green transition was more of an overarching theme for both side events. And like for AI, we definitely say that the bioeconomy and the green transition is teamwork. Let's now look at another video. Next up is another virtual presentation from the InTech workshop by Ron Bodkin. He's also at the Vector Institute.
Hi, I'm Ron Bodkin, VP of AI Engineering and CIO at the Vector Institute, and also engineering lead at the Schwartz Reisman Institute for Technology and Society. I'm going to talk to you about the Vector Institute, a world-class AI research institute based in Canada, and how we scale the benefits of AI research to industry, health, and more broadly to society. Familiar with how the advances in deep learning are bringing AI techniques to technology firms. So in the area of search and recommendations, we've seen advances like large language models being applied to improve search at companies like Google, and the use of deep learning to drive improved recommendations at companies like Facebook and YouTube. We're also seeing a lot of interest in conversational AI with technologies like Siri and Alexa being popular for consumers to allow not only language understanding, but also advances in advanced speech recognition and speech to text generation. These same technologies are also gaining a lot of interest and prevalence in the industry context, such as in call centers. And we're seeing a lot of interest in our industry community in this area as well. So that's one locus of applications. We also see a lot of interest in applying AI in the healthcare arena. At Vector, we've worked on problems like enhancing radiology. So being able to look at scans to detect potential conditions like cancer and to provide explanations. We don't see this as replacing qualified physicians, but instead as an assistant to help them do a better job diagnosing, perhaps provide a second check or an additional source of input to improve the quality of care. Another system that we've worked on, some of our researchers have worked on, is a system to predict cardiac arrest, feeding in a variety of different signals that can allow early detection by just a few minutes of a patient who's at imminent risk of a heart attack, which can make all the difference in terms of being able to intervene to save their life. We also see a lot of opportunity to apply AI for social good in areas like climate change. Computer vision techniques can be used to detect deforestation and even predict where it's going to happen to allow mitigation. We have significant investment with leading faculty working on materials discovery using AI techniques, which can improve the efficiency and effectiveness of battery and fuel cells. And of course, improving energy storage is a key part of allowing renewable energy sources to displace carbon emitting energy sources. We'll talk more about specific applications of energy management optimization subsequently, because we've done a project relating to it and we have a sponsor that did it. And we see a lot of opportunity to use AI in biodiversity research as well. So AI techniques are being applied in important areas in ESG, and we see a lot of interest in our ecosystem around these topics as well. With that in mind, let's turn to some case studies of how Vector is engaging with industry and how we're creating value in doing so. Now, let's turn to more practically how we engage to create that value with our ecosystem. At Vector, we have recently started an engineering team whose mission is to connect the great research with technical artifacts and technical implementation that enables the success of industry partners, health partners, and broader societal good. The way we engage is we have a number of triggers that can lead to interest. We can have sponsors that are interested in a topic, and in discussions with them, we identify a recurring theme where there's a need or opportunity for expanding how new AI research might help. We can see from researchers who've come to us or come up with great new ideas, opportunities to bring them forward and apply them. And we get requests from researchers around how engineering techniques might support their needs, and often those can be transferred into industry as well. So there's a range of different ways that we can trigger projects, but consistently what we like to do from there is to work on a quick demonstration of what's feasible, a proof of feasibility that leads to an MVP, minimum viable product. It can then be tested and used by different partners to do their own proof of concept. This can be done in a short hackathon or boot camp in a 1 week period where different participants can get hands-on with technologies and try them. For example, we're at the stage of putting a privacy enhancing technologies boot camp together this fall, where sponsors can try out federated learning, differential privacy, and homomorphic encryption, where we vetted different libraries and made it easier to test them out and use them in practical use cases. This then can lead, after that, sponsors can immediately see how to apply the techniques in their own business, And it can also lead to longer collaboration projects where you can have multiple companies working together over a course of a few weeks to do a longer worked example of how to really achieve meaningful results with AI. Inside the company, that then often leads to deployment of products, as we'll hear about. And at Vector, we will often follow those projects by publishing white papers, but also open sourcing software, releasing data sets, and for techniques that mature, create training so that they can be repeated beyond an initial project. As an example of one of these projects, a couple of years ago, with the emergence of large language models, we had a lot of interest in understanding how they could be applied in different industries and made useful for business purposes. We had a lot of success with sponsors doing a variety of different applications. For example, Thomson Reuters looked at using BERT language models to improve the quality of search when customers were looking in their legal or tax databases. They were able to come up with better features out of the language understanding that these models have to re-rank or improve the order in which results were shown to users to improve the quality of those results. Based on that success, they've been able to apply it and are looking at both expanding the scope of what can be done with NLP, as well as looking at other domains where it might be relevant. In that same project, we also had one of our sponsors at the Bank of Montreal look at a different problem, which is how to customize language models, but in their case, to better understand the sentiment of discussion about financial markets. So to be able to understand if there were positive or negative views about things like a given stock. They were able to tailor data sets and refine, fine-tune NLP models to understand this problem. And even though their lead participant had not worked with NLP before, she was able to create models that subsequently were able to be deployed to benefit their capital markets team, which significantly accelerated their progress in using these exciting new techniques. We also had other sponsors in the project achieve significant results. Manulife, an insurance company, was able to use NLP techniques to automate document classification out of their experience with this project. And in fact, they created an in-house academy to replicate the learnings to scale knowledge more broadly in their organization on how to use language models. Likewise, Accenture participated and were able to use this to accelerate the development of an information extraction engine that they use with their customers, as well as collaborating on fairness, explainability, robustness, and risk management. So you can see as this one example how taking the idea of recent advances in language models and exploring how that could be fine-tuned and applied to a variety of industry contexts generated a lot of value for different companies. More recently, we've completed a project around computer vision, where we were able to create demonstrations with sponsors and our engineering team with open source software. A couple of interesting examples of capabilities we demonstrated were anomaly detection, being able to identify unusual characteristics of an image that would be indicative of risk of a defect in manufacturing, as well as being able to do 3D analysis on videos. So being able to look at, in this case, videos of lung scans to be able to distinguish between healthy patients, patients with pneumonia, and patients with COVID. So in these cases, the results of these projects were accelerating knowledge of how to work with complex and varying data, how to use techniques to detect anomalies and work with a variety of videos, and has led to interest in deploying visual inspection for manufacturing using deep learning techniques, as well as video analysis in commercial applications rather than health applications from sponsors. We've also conducted industry collaboration projects in a number of other topics. A few more include a health project, which has looked at how to improve patient outcomes and better serve customers by allowing them to take health data and opt into sharing it to improve how they are served by commercial health offerings. Dataset Shift project, which was recently, we've had the leads for this project have been accepted to the ECML conference. And this talks about how one can deal with machine learning models, AI systems, when data sets suddenly change, when some of the underlying conditions have radically shifted. This was triggered by sudden changes in supply chains and consumer behavior with the lockdowns and ensuing disruption to the economy of the COVID-19 pandemic. And finally, model-based reinforcement learning. An interesting outcome of this project was TELUS, a large telecommunications company in Canada, was able to demonstrate a model that would optimize cooling a data center and reduce energy required to do so by 15%. This was validated in a real world setting. And not only are they looking at how to deploy this, but also looking at how the same kind of model could be used to save energy in other systems like cell towers and agriculture. At Vector, we also are engaged in a variety of projects around responsible AI, whether it be Trustworthy AI as a project to help sponsors think about governance and risk management and what are the technologies that allow them to do things like ensure fairness and improve interpretability of models. Project Pensive, in which we're applying content analysis in AI to let users have more control over the kind of content they would see in recommendations, such as being able to filter out uncivil language or prefer more objective language, as well as more diverse content. We're also working closely with Schwartz-Reisman Institute on that and on Trustworthy AI, and indeed on all of these projects. Another shared initiative with Schwartz-Reisman is the Trusted Data Sharing Lab, which is about creating both technical infrastructure, such as the Privacy Enhancing Technologies Bootcamp, but then also the legal infrastructure. So how can one apply privacy enhancing technologies to enable positive uses of data? So how can you allow for opt-in and allow for beneficial uses of machine learning, such as in health, while still having an appropriate privacy preservation? We also are working on projects around improving fairness, so understanding, detecting and mitigating unfair bias, as well as explainability, are important areas of focus as well for us. In addition to working with larger enterprises, Vector is also working with smaller enterprises, smaller companies, including startups and scale-ups. As some examples, we're working with a startup that is helping improve hiring called Nokri. They came to a course we did on bias in AI. And in that course, they learned a lot about detecting and remediating bias. And their team did a capstone project where they demonstrated a way to actually mitigate bias that is relevant to their product, and they're planning to implement that. So they learned a lot about an important area and ended up improving their business, improving their product by implementing this in future. We also work with Tealbook, which was excited to consult with Vector faculty member Frank Redditch on how they can best apply techniques to solve some of their text processing needs, such as text summarization. They're an e-procurement company, so applying the latest AI techniques, but also judgment on what are the balance of techniques, including more traditional machine learning, was valuable to them. We're also working with startups in the agriculture sector, such as one that is doing robotic harvesting. And we've been able to help them understand how computer vision and advances in data models can help them develop a competitive advantage. And in logistics, where we're helping an innovative startup apply AI and scale their workforce to drive predictive maintenance that will help them compete and create value in industry in our local ecosystem. As another area where we're helping startups and scale-ups, we see a ton of opportunity around regulatory technology. So technology to help increase visibility for auditing and tracking what's going on in AI systems to better have control and to mitigate any unintended outcomes. This is an area that Schwartz Reisman has been investing, and we're excited to see more collaboration in future. So in conclusion, we at Vector are a leader in AI research and applications. This research is creating new business opportunities in enterprises and small and medium-sized businesses as well. And we're excited about collaborating with industry to accelerate this value through knowledge transfer, collaborative projects, creating open source, and rich interactions with the research community. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, so I hope those two presentations gave you an insight into the Vector Institute and the discussions at the InTech workshop, which might have provided some food for thought. And please don't hesitate to get in touch with Automation Region or PIA if you want to know more about the workshop or the companies that took part in that workshop. But moving on, let's now shift focus a little bit to the other side event that was organized on the 21st of September. For us at Paper Province, the main focus was obviously on the bioeconomy side event and the workshops, the matchmaking session, and the meetings that we managed to really squeeze into that side event. So let's now go to a live presentation rather than a pre-recorded video. So I'm really happy to be able to present to you and introduce Chris Walton, CEO of our most trusted Canadian partner, the Centre for Innovation and Research in the Bioeconomy, CRIBE. And I really have to stress that without CRIBE, this side event would not have been made possible. It wouldn't have happened. Our collaboration with CRIBE goes back a few years. We've organized a few so-called Nordic Collab events. And for this particular event, we joined forces for the bioeconomy side event. And without CRIBE, without the CRIBE ecosystem that was opened up to us, our startups would not have been successfully matched with Canadian companies. I can say that for sure. So collaboration was really the key to making this bioeconomy side event a success. And without CRIBE, we wouldn't have managed. So Chris, take it away.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, so I don't have a presentation. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about who we are and the collaboration. We call it the Nordic Collab that we've been doing with our partners up in the Värmland region and Karlstad in Sweden. So just a quick background. My name is Chris Walton. I'm the CEO of CRIBE, the Center for Research, Innovation, and the Bioeconomy. We're an independent nonprofit that's been around since 2009. We are based in Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is the northwestern part of the province at the top of Lake Superior. We have a small, I loosely call it a cluster of innovation that occurs up here, focused on forestry and the forest bioeconomy, including pilot plants from FP Innovations, Lakehead University, Confederation College, and a few other innovation agencies. We also, so CRIBE is an innovation accelerator. We focus on mid to late stage, new next generation emerging technologies focused on the forest resources, forest biomass, and forest technology. We provide this through funding, innovation funding, matching funding, as well as business support such as matchmaking, networking, and whatnot. We also operate an industry collaboration network called Next4, which has over 400 partners, very industry focused, very value chain focused, and it's all around developing value chains, new and emerging value chains, and providing support to those industry partners. And so it represents a lot of Canadian companies, but also globally. It's a great place to connect with Canadian companies. While our mandate is focused on Ontario, the province of Ontario, we do work nationally and internationally, obviously. So our relationship with Paper Province and the Värmland region actually started back in 2019 and was focused on lignin as the two sort of prominent craft lignin extraction technologies developed in the world, commercial technologies. One was developed by Rise in Ligno City, and the other one was developed by FP Innovations here in Thunder Bay. So that was the original connection. Paper Province and a number of delegates from the region and Rise visited us in October 2019 to start the conversation around collaboration. Obviously, the pandemic hit. we took a break, did virtual collaboration for a couple of years there. We were just in Stockholm and in Karlstad in May, June of this year, and continued our conversations, discussions, looking for collaboration. We brought 19 organizations over to talk about regional innovation, regional collaboration, excuse me, and bring some businesses over. So this led to the side events that happened last week. And so we had two events, actually. We hosted one event, which was on September 20th, in which Sting Bioeconomy and Paper Province participated, and that was around decarbonization of heavy industry. We had, this is really a collaboration of the large heavy industry in Ontario, discussing how to use forestry and forest-based feedstocks to help decarbonize. And then on September 21st, we had our side event. We had Stora Enso present, which is always exciting to hear what Stora Enso has to say. They are, in our opinion, the global leader in emerging technologies for next generation forest technologies and products. So just quickly, cognizant of time here, we quickly realized back in 2019, lignin was our focus, but I think it's been mentioned before earlier in this session. Sweden and Canada, definitely our values align, our business models align. There's a lot of things that make sense to collaborate between Canada, Ontario, and Sweden. But the other part of it is that we're both very resource-centric economies. We have very similar industry, particularly on the forest product side, pulp and paper, more pulp now than paper, but packaging, solid wood, engineered wood, CLT, and whatnot. So this has really been our focus, is on how can we work together to see if we can accelerate and move technologies quicker and get things into the marketplace. It's complementary. We don't necessarily compete in the same market. So if you're successful, we're successful, and if Canada's successful, Sweden can be successful on these new technologies. So quickly, just 4 or 5 of our key learnings and I think takeaways from our sessions, not only that we've been doing for the past couple of years, but were reinforced last week. Definitely, we believe there's an opportunity to align decarbonization efforts of what we call heavy industry. So that's your steel, mining, lime, cement, pulp, and paper. Definitely both our sector, our heavy industry, particularly steel and mining, are very focused on decarbonization and net zero, as are the Swedish mining industry and steel sector. We think there's some really interesting synergies there that we should continue to work together, and we're going to pursue around decarbonization. The other one is that Ontario, specifically Ontario, has a very strong manufacturing sector focused on advanced manufacturing, auto, advanced materials. What we actually lack in, to be very honest, what we lack in Ontario and Canada is a strong startup culture in the bioeconomy. There's very strong startup culture in other sectors, but within the bioeconomy, we struggle with startups, whereas our Swedish partners definitely, and definitely out of Paper Province, you have a very strong startup culture and startup companies. We'd really like to see how we can align those startups with our very strong manufacturing sector here. Our manufacturing sector is looking for low carbon renewable solutions, particularly the transportation sector, auto sector. They're looking for solutions today. So if we can bring your startups in and get them set up in Canada and Ontario, create jobs in Ontario, benefits both sectors. We're also seeing continued interest around low carbon building solutions, net zero building solutions. Obviously, we both have strong wood construction technologies. What's emerging on that? Can we look at the full building envelope? What is that something that we can work together on? Both the sectors, both Canada and Sweden, particularly Ontario, have very strong electrification strategies, EV strategies, battery storage, energy storage, battery manufacturing. That is definitely a focus of our government. Critical minerals and batteries are major focus of our government moving forward, as in, I think, in Sweden as well. So we really see, can we make I think there's a tremendous opportunity to collaborate between the two jurisdictions around this sort of advanced carbon side of it for energy storage, for batteries. Definitely, we believe that Sweden's leading the way on this. So is there some way that we could, really work together and align, critical mineral strategy we have in Canada, particularly Ontario, with some of the advances in advanced carbon that's being done in Sweden. Could we make a full battery domestically, make a battery perhaps out of our critical minerals and wood as well, or wood products. So, and advanced biomaterials, advanced composites, carbon fiber, other things like that. Strong interest again from our manufacturing sector, auto sector. We think that this is a great area that we continue to collaborate on. So that's about all I'd like to say, other than thank you again to Paul at Paper Province, Rise, Business Sweden, Christina. Thank you for your continued support, and we're definitely looking forward to ongoing collaborations and hopefully get a few businesses off the ground in the process. So thank you again.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Great summary there of not just what took place during the bioeconomy side event, but a bit of background there as well on our collaboration, and as well as the biocarbon forum that you mentioned there, that you by accident or not organized during the same week as the Innovation Days. And the steel industry biocarbon theme is certainly something that's emerging as one of the very strong areas for possible collaboration here between Sweden and Ontario. So anyway, lots of opportunities, and we certainly have a lot to follow up on and take forward there. So thanks again, Chris. But moving on, I think on behalf of everyone, I can say that none of what we have spoken about so far would have really been made possible or happened without Business Sweden. And not only did you make sure that we had the best possible conditions for the side events, but you played a huge part in planning and implementing the main event. So I'm really delighted now to present to you Christina, who made everything tick.
Thank you so much, Paul. Yes, I'm delighted to be part of this event here today, and we'll talk a little bit about the background, why we did this. And Sweden Canada Innovation Days, this is the third time we are doing this. We did it in 2018 and 19 as well in Montreal, but this was the first time we did an in-person event in Toronto. And it is on initiative, like you mentioned, from Vinnova, and Business Sweden were given the task to organize it. So we were absolutely thrilled to be able to do this this year, and it was planned for 2 days, and September 22nd, 23rd. As we were planning this, we realized that there was such an interest from so many people and organizations. So the event actually grew to include a lot of these side events that you have mentioned in this webinar. So with that, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. As you said, the main sponsor is Vinnova. Without them, we couldn't be able to do this. But we also have the backing of some of the Swedish corporate companies like Saab, Epiroc, ABB, and Ericsson, as well as the Swedish embassy in Ottawa. And then we do have a lot of collaborative partners, you being one of them, Paper Province, Cribe, and Chris. We have been collaborating for many years, but also other Canadian companies or organizations like Sudbury, the City of Sudbury, and McMaster University. So a lot of stakeholders that made this whole event happen. Some of the numbers, it was a well-attended event. We had over 130 people, and 50 of those came from Sweden, which was fantastic, and 24 speakers, and a lot of the presentations were focused on the mining industry and advanced manufacturing, with the overlying theme of AI. And as Paul mentioned, we also collaborated with Ignite and had matchmaking sessions on the Friday. And Ignite attracted 11 Swedish startups, or I would say almost scale-ups. And 9 of those came to Canada, two couldn't make it, and they they were available digitally. But we also attracted 5 very large Canadian corporates, Rogers Communication, Magna, TELUS, Bell, and Best Tech engineering company. So with that, Ignite was able to put together matchmaking meetings, and turned out to be over 30 meetings that took place on the Friday. But like I said before, this was an event to bring together both industry, government, and academia. And we did have the honor to have the Ontario Minister for Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Minister Fideli, attend the event, along with our own ambassador, Urban Ahlin, and the Canadian ambassador to Sweden, Jason Latorre, also participated with a video reading. But the whole event itself, we had both presentations, we had panel discussions, and we also had roundtable discussion and panelists. So it was a full day event of a lot of interaction and also networking events. So we were very pleased that so many were able to come, and we are very pleased that so many came from Sweden as well. So, and I'm not going to go into this, but like you mentioned before, a lot of side event took place. We had a VIP dinner the night before. We had the InTech and the bioeconomy workshops that you have explained so well, and also site visit to Vector Institute. That was a highlight to many of the Swedish delegates. But also some visits also to incubators like DMC and 111 in Toronto. So a little bit of reflection on the event itself, and I think Chris took some of my notes there. Both countries share very much common industries, like the mining industry, advanced manufacturing, the battery development and the critical minerals, and also the automotive industry. So those are industries that Sweden and Canada has in common, and we also share a lot of common values, and very much two like-minded countries that I think both ambassadors talked a lot about in their opening remarks. And Ambassador Latorre was mentioning that they have had more ministerial visits to Sweden by Canadian to Sweden in the last 10 months than they have had in the past 5 years. So there's a lot of interest, and I think Canada and Sweden has a lot of untapped potential. We share industries, and we share a good trade relationship over many, many years. But I think right now we can grow that even more. And some of the highlights that have also already been mentioned, like the Canada's hub for AI research and experts and companies is magnificent. And we also have a huge talent pool. Canada has one of the most educated people in the world. And I think, just like Chris was saying, there is such a great need for digital solutions in every sector. So digitalization, automation is huge. And this is solutions that Sweden has can provide. So I think there is a great momentum for deeper collaboration between the two countries, and I'm really looking forward to see what this will look like in a year's time. All the discussion and collaboration that took place during last week, and what that will lead to in action rather than just talking about it. So thank you so much. I think that was all I had to show you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Christina. I think you summarized the Innovation Days very well, and thank you for your reflections as well. There's lots of potential there, as you say, but I think we should stress as well that we are already doing lots of things together, Canada, Sweden, but there's certainly lots of opportunities to explore as well. And we are very grateful that we were able to take part in the Innovation Days and organize side events as well during the Innovation Days. But really, that's it for now. I would like to thank everyone for taking part today, and I hope you enjoyed our attempt to take you back to the Innovation Days last week. But finally, let me just say that iHubs continues to build capacity and collaboration in the Swedish innovation ecosystems. We have a few events lined up, and next up is a 2-day crash course in October in Stockholm on how to create impact with a mission-driven approach. Through the mission-oriented approach, we will continue to innovate the way we innovate. And I believe there's still a few places available for that particular event. So if you're interested, it's first come, first served, really. And please follow iHub Sweden as well on LinkedIn, and please visit the website. That's it. Thanks very much.